87 meters beneath the Baltic Sea lies something that should not exist. A perfectly circular formation stretching 60 meters across the ocean floor. Symmetrical features that defy natural explanation. And now, AI-enhanced scanning technology has captured it in detail that makes the original discovery look like a blurry photograph. What the new scans revealed has forced geologists to reconsider everything they thought they knew about this region, because what sits on that seafloor is either the most bizarre geological formation ever documented or evidence of something we are not ready to acknowledge. The discovery that broke the internet. June 19, 2011. The Swedish treasure hunting team OceanX descended into the Gulf of Bothnia searching for shipwrecks. They were looking for champagne bottles from a 19th century schooner rumored to have gone down with a cargo of vintage wine. What their side-scan sonar found instead would become one of the most controversial underwater discoveries in modern history. Dennis Asberg and Peter Lindberg had been searching Baltic waters for over a decade. They knew these depths. They understood how sonar images translated to reality. They had seen countless wrecks, geological formations, and underwater debris fields. But when the sonar screen lit up with the image of what appeared to be a massive circular disk sitting on the seabed, both men knew they were looking at something extraordinary. The object measured approximately 60 meters in diameter. The sonar showed what appeared to be straight edges, right angles, and a surface texture, unlike anything in the surrounding area. But what caught their attention was the trail. Extending behind the object for roughly 180 meters was a distinct track in the sediment, as if something massive had scraped across the ocean floor before coming to rest. The initial sonar image went viral within days. The formation looked disturbingly artificial. Online speculation exploded. Some claimed it was a crashed UFO. Others suggested a lost Nazi submarine base or a sunken weapons platform. The more cautious voices pointed to natural geological processes, glacial deposits, volcanic formations. But nobody could explain why a natural formation would be so symmetrical, or why it would have left such a distinct trail. OceanX announced plans to return with better equipment. They would dive on the object, photograph it, and settle the debate once and for all. The media coverage intensified. Discovery Channel expressed interest. Documentaries were planned. Beneath all the excitement lay a simple question that nobody could answer. What was sitting on the bottom of the Baltic Sea? The location itself added to the mystery. The Gulf of Bothnia is not a remote, unexplored region. It is one of the most heavily trafficked bodies of water in northern Europe. Shipping lanes cross it constantly. Submarines from multiple nations patrol its depths. Military sonar sweeps the area regularly. How could something this large have gone unnoticed until 2011? The answer, as investigators would later discover, lay in the limitations of older sonar technology and the sheer volume of underwater features in the Baltic. The seafloor in this region is littered with glacial debris, rock formations, and wreckage from centuries of maritime traffic. Finding one specific anomaly among thousands of targets required luck, persistence, and equipment sensitive enough to distinguish unusual shapes from the geological background noise. OceanX had found their anomaly. Now they had to prove what it was. And when they finally descended to examine it up close, the images they brought back would only deepen the mystery. What the sonar showed, the original side-scan sonar data from 2011, remains one of the most analyzed underwater images in recent history. Researchers, geologists, and amateur investigators have scrutinized every pixel searching for clues. What the data shows is both tantalizing and frustratingly ambiguous. The primary object appears as a dark circular shape against the lighter sediment of the seabed. The diameter is consistent across multiple sonar passes at roughly 60 meters. But it is the details around the edges that fuel the debate. The sonar suggests what could be interpreted as straight lines, angular features, and surface patterns that do not match the random chaos of natural rock formations. The trail extending behind the object is equally puzzling. Sonar images show a distinct furrow in the sediment approximately 180 meters long. The furrow is relatively straight and appears to lead directly to the circular formation. Geological processes can create trails, such as submarine landslides, dragging ice formations during glacial periods, and sediment flows. But those trails are typically irregular, branching, chaotic. This one is disturbingly linear. Adjacent to the main object, sonar detected what appeared to be a smaller circular formation. Some interpreted this as a secondary structure. Others suggested it was simply a geological feature coincidentally positioned nearby. The resolution of the sonar from 2011 was insufficient to determine which interpretation was correct. What made the images so controversial was their resemblance to human-made structures. The brain is wired to recognize patterns. Show someone a circular object with straight edges and their mind immediately jumps to artificial origins. Skeptics argued this was pareidolia, the psychological phenomenon where people see meaningful patterns in random data. Believers argued that dismissing the evidence as a trick of perception was intellectually dishonest. The side-scan sonar used by OceanX in 2011 was standard commercial equipment. It could detect shapes and surface textures, but could not provide detailed three-dimensional imaging. It could not penetrate beneath the sediment to reveal what lay below the visible surface. And it could not definitively distinguish between a rock formation shaped by millennia of erosion and something constructed by intelligent hands. The limitations of the technology left critical questions unanswered. Was the circular shape a solid object, or simply an area of different sediment density? Were the apparent straight edges actual geometric features, or artifacts of how sound waves reflected off irregular surfaces? Was the trail evidence of the object moving across the seabed, or simply a coincidental geological feature? OceanX promised that their upcoming expedition would answer these questions. They would deploy remotely operated vehicles, high-definition cameras, and sampling equipment. They would document the object from every angle, collect material samples, and produce evidence that would settle the debate. What they found when they finally descended would only make the mystery worse. The expedition that changed everything. In June 2012, OceanX returned to the site with a full expedition team. They deployed remotely operated vehicles equipped with cameras, lights, and sampling arms. For the first time, human eyes would see the object that sonar had detected a year earlier. The team was prepared for anything, but they were not prepared for how little the expedition would actually resolve. The remotely operated vehicle descended through 87 meters of dark water. When the lights finally illuminated the seabed, the cameras captured something that defied easy categorization. The object was indeed circular, roughly 60 meters in diameter as the sonar had suggested. But instead of smooth manufactured surfaces, the formation appeared to be rock, heavily encrusted with sediment and marine growth. The surface texture was unusual. In some areas, the rock appeared almost smooth, weathered by water flow in ways that seemed inconsistent with typical Baltic geology. In other areas, apparent straight edges and what looked like carved channels ran across the surface. The team documented what looked like a ramp or staircase leading up one side of the formation. They filmed what appeared to be geometric patterns in the rock face. They captured images of circular depressions that resembled perfectly round holes. But every piece of evidence that suggested artificial origin had an equally plausible natural explanation. Glacial action could have carved straight channels. Differential erosion could have created geometric patterns. Circular depressions could be the result of softer rock eroding faster than surrounding material. The ramp could be a natural slope shaped by sediment flow. The sampling equipment brought up fragments of the rock. Initial analysis suggested basalt, a volcanic rock common in regions with past geological activity. But basalt in the Baltic was unexpected. The region is not known for volcanic formations. The nearest volcanic activity occurred millions of years ago. How a massive basalt formation ended up on the seabed in this location became another question without a clear answer. The expedition also encountered technical problems that added fuel to conspiracy theories. Team members reported that electronic equipment malfunctioned when positioned directly above the object. Satellite phones dropped calls. Camera systems experienced interference. Skeptics pointed to electromagnetic anomalies possibly caused by mineral deposits in the rock. Believers suggested the interference was evidence of something actively disrupting their equipment. OceanX released video footage and photographs to the media. The images went viral again. But instead of settling the debate, they intensified it. Some saw clear evidence of artificial construction. Others saw nothing but rock shaped by natural processes. And the scientific community remained divided between those who dismissed the entire thing as a publicity stunt and those who acknowledged that the formation deserved serious geological study. What nobody had at the time was the technology to create a complete three-dimensional model of the object. The cameras could only capture what they could see from specific angles. Large portions of the formation remained obscured by sediment or hidden beneath overhangs. A comprehensive understanding required imaging technology that did not exist in 2012. It would take another decade and the development of scanning systems enhanced by AI before anyone could see the complete picture. And when that technology finally arrived, what it revealed would force even the skeptics to admit that something very strange was happening on the Baltic Sea floor. If you are still here, you have seen how a Swedish treasure hunting team stumbled onto something that should not exist, and how their 2012 expedition raised more questions than it answered. Comment 2 below if you are following this investigation. If you have not subscribed, please do so. And turn on the bell notification so you do not miss what comes next. Your support helps us tell the stories that conventional science tried to dismiss. Now, let us talk about what the AI scans finally revealed. What the AI finally revealed. In 2023, a joint Swedish and Finnish research team returned to the Baltic anomaly with technology that would have seemed like science fiction a decade earlier. Autonomous underwater vehicles equipped with multi-beam sonar, photogrammetry systems, and processing software, powered by AI, descended to map the formation in unprecedented detail. What the scans produced was the first complete three-dimensional model of the object. And the results were deeply unsettling. AI processing systems compiled over 100,000 individual data points into a coherent whole. For the first time, researchers could examine the entire formation from any angle, measuring features that had been impossible to assess with earlier technology. The complete model confirmed the circular shape at roughly 60 meters in diameter. But it also revealed details that the original sonar and remotely operated vehicle footage had missed entirely. The surface of the formation showed patterns that were disturbingly regular. Uniform parallel grooves ran across sections of the rock in consistent spacing. The grooves were approximately 10 centimeters deep and spaced at intervals that varied by less than 5 centimeters across their entire length. Natural erosion does not produce that kind of consistency. Water flow, sediment abrasion, glacial scraping, all create irregular patterns. These grooves were uniform in a way that suggested deliberate carving. The AI scans also resolved the question of the ramp-like structure that the 2012 expedition had filmed. The three-dimensional model showed that it was indeed a sloped surface rising from the seabed to the top of the formation at an angle of approximately 30 degrees. What caught the researchers' attention was the surface of the ramp itself. It was smooth, worn in a pattern consistent with something repeatedly moving across it, not the random texture you would expect from a natural geological slope. Circular depressions documented in earlier footage were revealed to be far more numerous than anyone had realized. The AI scans identified over 40 perfectly round holes distributed across the surface of the formation. The holes ranged from 20 to 50 centimeters in diameter. Most were approximately 30 centimeters deep. They were positioned in a pattern that some researchers argued was too regular to be random, while others insisted the pattern was well within the bounds of natural geological variation. The trail extending behind the object became even more mysterious under AI analysis. The three-dimensional model showed that the furrow was not simply a surface feature. It extended down into the sediment layers in a way that suggested the object had indeed moved across the seabed. When that movement occurred remained impossible to determine. Glacial ice dragging rock formations across the seafloor was a documented phenomenon in the Baltic. Glacial activity in this region ended roughly 10,000 years ago. If the object had been dragged by ice, it had been sitting in its current position for millennia. The smaller circular formation adjacent to the main object was revealed to be approximately 20 meters in diameter with many of the same surface features as the larger formation. Parallel grooves, circular depressions, and smooth surfaces appeared in areas where erosion should have created roughness. The AI scans suggested the two formations were composed of similar material and shared structural characteristics. Whether they were related remained speculation, but the most disturbing finding came from subsurface penetration analysis. Ground-penetrating sonar revealed that the formation extended several meters below the visible surface. The subsurface structure showed what appeared to be chambers or voids beneath the rock. Natural volcanic formations can have hollow spaces formed by gas bubbles or cooling processes. The voids detected beneath the Baltic anomaly were larger and more regularly shaped than typical volcanic cavities. AI processing also flagged anomalies in the surrounding sediment. Magnetic readings showed localized variations that did not match the background geology of the area. Chemical analysis of sediment samples revealed trace elements inconsistent with the regional baseline. Thermal imaging detected temperature variations around the object that suggested heat retention properties different from surrounding rock. These anomalies added to the puzzle. The research team published their findings in a peer-reviewed geological journal. The conclusions were carefully worded. The formation was unusual. It warranted further study. The regular features could potentially be explained by natural processes, but those processes were not yet fully understood. The paper stopped short of claiming anything definitive. And the scientific community remained split between those who saw evidence demanding explanation and those who saw a rock formation being misinterpreted by people looking for mysteries. The geological explanation nobody wanted. The official geological explanation for the Baltic anomaly is glacial deposition. During the last ice age, massive glaciers covered the region. As the ice advanced and retreated, it dragged enormous quantities of rock across the landscape. When the glaciers melted 10,000 years ago, they left behind deposits of stone scattered across what would become the Baltic seabed. This explanation accounts for the presence of basalt in a region without recent volcanic activity. Glaciers are capable of transporting rock hundreds of kilometers from its origin point. The basalt could have been scraped from ancient volcanic formations in Scandinavia or Finland and deposited in the Gulf of Bothnia when the ice finally released its grip. The circular shape could be explained by differential erosion. If the basalt formation was initially irregular, softer surrounding sediment would erode faster than the harder volcanic rock, eventually isolating the formation and shaping it into a more symmetrical profile. Water currents flowing consistently from one direction over thousands of years could account for the smoothing of certain surfaces. The trail could be explained by the glacial dragging process itself. As the ice moved the rock formation across the sea floor, it would have carved a furrow into the sediment below. The straightness of the trail could simply reflect the direction of glacial flow in that particular area during that particular period. The parallel grooves could be striations caused by harder mineral inclusions in the ice scraping across the rock surface as the glacier moved. Glacial striations are a documented phenomenon and can create surprisingly regular patterns. The circular depressions could be weathering pits formed when softer mineral inclusions in the basalt eroded faster than the surrounding material, leaving round holes behind. The subsurface voids could be gas cavities formed when the basalt originally cooled from molten rock millions of years ago. Volcanic rock commonly contains such voids. The magnetic anomalies could be explained by variations in iron content within the basalt itself. The chemical traces in the surrounding sediment could result from slow leaching of minerals from the rock over millennia. Every unusual feature had a potential natural explanation, and for many geologists, that was sufficient. The Baltic anomaly was simply a rock. An interesting rock, a photogenic rock, a rock that happened to look artificial because human brains are wired to see patterns. But still, just a rock. Except the explanations required a remarkable series of coincidences. The glacial ice had to drag the rock in an almost perfectly straight line. The differential erosion had to create near-perfect circular symmetry. The striations had to be spaced with unusual regularity. The weathering pits had to form in a pattern that appeared non-random. The gas cavities had to be larger and more regularly shaped than typical volcanic voids. Each individual explanation was plausible, but taken together, they required the Baltic anomaly to be the most peculiarly shaped, most unusually eroded, most coincidentally geometric natural formation ever documented in the region. And that was a pill that some researchers found hard to swallow. The debate came down to a question of probability. Was it more likely that a series of rare but natural geological processes had created something that looked artificial? Or was it more likely that the formation was actually artificial, and scientists were bending over backwards to avoid acknowledging evidence that did not fit conventional understanding? The answer depended on your willingness to accept extraordinary evidence and your standards for what constituted extraordinary evidence. What still does not make sense. Even if every geological explanation is accepted at face value, critical questions remain unanswered. The Baltic anomaly sits in one of the most heavily monitored bodies of water in the world. How did it go undetected until 2011? Military sonar systems operated by Sweden, Finland, Russia, and NATO forces have been mapping these waters for decades. Commercial shipping uses sophisticated navigation equipment. Scientific research vessels have surveyed the Baltic repeatedly. Why did nobody notice a 60-meter circular formation on the seabed until a private treasure hunting team stumbled across it? The answer may lie in the limitations of older sonar systems and the sheer volume of underwater features in the region. But it raises uncomfortable questions about what else might be down there that nobody has noticed yet. If something this large could hide in plain sight for so long, what other anomalies are waiting to be discovered? The electromagnetic interference reported by OceanX has never been adequately explained. Electronic equipment malfunctioning near underwater rock formations is not a documented phenomenon. Mineral deposits can create localized magnetic fields, but those fields do not typically disrupt satellite communications or camera systems. The interference could have been coincidental technical failures, or it could indicate something about the formation that standard geological models do not account for. The thermal properties detected by AI scans also lack a satisfying explanation. Rock formations do not retain heat differently from surrounding material without a reason. Variations in thermal conductivity can result from differences in mineral composition, but the temperature variations detected around the Baltic anomaly were larger than expected based on the basalt composition. This suggests either an unidentified mineral component in the rock or a heat source beneath the formation that has not been located. The subsurface voids remain the most troubling aspect of the AI scans. Gas cavities in volcanic rock are common, but they are typically small, irregular, and scattered randomly throughout the formation. The voids beneath the Baltic anomaly appeared larger, more regularly shaped, and positioned in a pattern that some researchers found difficult to attribute to natural cooling processes alone. Ground-penetrating sonar resolution was insufficient to map the voids in detail, leaving open the possibility that they are simply being misinterpreted. Without more invasive investigation, the question cannot be definitively answered. And then, there is the material composition itself. Basalt in the Baltic is unusual but not impossible. Glacial transport can explain its presence, but no one has definitively identified the source formation that the basalt originated from. Without knowing where the rock came from, it is impossible to verify the glacial transport explanation. The chemical signature of the basalt should allow geologists to match it to a known volcanic formation in Scandinavia or Finland. That matching has not been successfully completed. The rock does not fit cleanly into any documented regional geology. The most frustrating aspect of the Baltic anomaly investigation is that every answer leads to more questions. Explain the circular shape, and you still have to explain the grooves. Explain the grooves, and you still have to explain the trail. Explain the trail, and you still have to explain the voids. Each piece of evidence can be individually rationalized, but the cumulative weight of coincidences required to explain everything naturally becomes increasingly difficult to accept. The scientific method demands skepticism. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And the evidence for the Baltic anomaly, being anything other than a natural geological formation, remains circumstantial, ambiguous, and open to interpretation. But dismissing the anomaly entirely requires ignoring details that do not fit comfortably into standard geological models. And for some researchers, that intellectual dishonesty is just as troubling as the alternative. The truth about Baltic anomalies. The Baltic seafloor is littered with anomalies. Thousands of them. Wrecks from every era of maritime history. Geological formations shaped by ice and water. Dumped munitions from 2 world wars. Debris from industrial activities spanning centuries. The seafloor is a chaotic archaeological and geological record that defies simple categorization. Most anomalies have mundane explanations, but a small percentage resist easy answers. The circular formation discovered by OceanX is one of several unexplained features in the Gulf of Bothnia. Sonar surveys have detected other symmetrical shapes, other trails, other formations that do not match documented geology. Most have never been investigated. They sit in databases as unidentified targets, logged by survey teams and then forgotten as attention moves to more pressing concerns. The question is not whether strange formations exist on the Baltic seafloor. The question is what percentage of those formations are genuinely anomalous versus simply poorly understood natural phenomena. And that question cannot be answered without systematic investigation of every unusual target. The resources required for such an effort are enormous. The scientific payoff for confirming that most anomalies are just rocks is minimal. So the work does not get done. The anomalies remain unexplained, and the debate continues. What the AI scans of the Baltic anomaly have proven is that technology now exists to map and analyze underwater formations in extraordinary detail. The limitations that plagued earlier investigations have been overcome. Multi-beam sonar, photogrammetry, AI processing. These tools can create 3-dimensional models with millimeter accuracy. They can detect subsurface structures. They can identify material composition. They can distinguish between natural and artificial features with confidence that was impossible a decade ago. But technology is only useful if it is deployed. The Baltic anomaly received intensive study because private teams were willing to fund the research and because media attention kept pressure on institutions to investigate. Hundreds of other anomalies scattered across the Baltic seafloor receive no such attention. They remain data points in sonar records, unexamined, unexplained, forgotten. The truth about the Baltic anomaly may never be definitively established. Without invasive sampling, without drilling into the formation, without excavating beneath the sediment to expose hidden structures, some questions will remain unresolved. And the cost of such invasive investigation is difficult to justify for a formation that most geologists believe is natural. For the researchers who studied the AI scans, the experience was humbling. They had access to the best imaging technology available. They applied rigorous scientific methodology. They consulted experts across multiple disciplines. At the end of the process, they could not state with certainty what the formation was. They could only confirm that it was unusual, that it raised legitimate questions, and that those questions deserved further study. For the families and amateur investigators who have followed the story since 2011, the ambiguity is frustrating. They want answers. They want someone in authority to admit that the formation might be artificial, or to prove definitively that it is natural. But science does not work that way. Science deals in probabilities, confidence intervals, and provisional conclusions subject to revision when new evidence emerges. The Baltic anomaly sits 87 meters beneath the surface, unchanged by the debate raging above. It has been there for thousands of years. It will be there for thousands more. Human interest in the formation is a brief moment in geological time. Whether we understand it or not, the rock does not care. But the AI scans have accomplished something important. They have documented the formation with a level of detail that will allow future researchers to build on current knowledge without starting from scratch. The three-dimensional model exists. The data is preserved. And when new analytical techniques are developed, they can be applied to existing records without requiring another expensive expedition. The technology that revealed the details of the Baltic anomaly is the same technology being applied to thousands of other underwater sites. Shipwrecks are being mapped with unprecedented accuracy. Ancient harbors are being reconstructed digitally. Lost cities are emerging from sediment in three-dimensional detail. The ocean is giving up its secrets faster than ever before. And with each new discovery comes the same question. Are we seeing what we think we are seeing? Or are we projecting patterns onto chaos, finding meaning in randomness, seeing evidence of intelligence where only geology exists? The Baltic anomaly does not provide an answer. It simply reminds us that the ocean floor remains one of the least understood environments on Earth. We know more about the surface of Mars than we know about the seabed, beneath our own shipping lanes. And until we systematically map and investigate every unexplained feature down there, we will never know what else is waiting to be found. 87 meters beneath the Baltic Sea lies something that defies easy explanation. It might be a rock shaped by ice and water. It might be something else. The AI scans captured it in detail that previous generations could not have imagined. But detail is not the same as understanding. And sometimes the more closely we look, the less certain we become.